What I think we're seeing in this country is not everybody is so similarly under the jurisdiction thereof of the United States, right? And by allowing for birthright citizenship and not interpreting the Constitution as we're legally allowed to and restrict, the automatic citizenship of anybody who's born here, we actually remove the issue, for example, of family separation, because there is no incentive of a family to come over to this country illegally and then have a child, which is contributing to the awful situation we have in America of breaking up families. This is not something that I imagine you or I agree with.
No.
The issue is birthright citizenship has incentivized that.
So even if I were to concede that in some cases birthright citizenship has incentivized that, that I don't like the phrase anchor babies, but I'm not naive enough to pretend that there are not immigrants who come here and time the pregnancy in order to get. Of course, you and I can agree on that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you then rip up a constitutional principle that goes back centuries, goes back before the 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment came about, I think, in 1868, if memory serves me correctly. But the principle underlying it is actually from my other country, the UK, ancient English common law, right? So this was always the case. The 14th Amendment, as you know, because you seem well read, came along and codified what was already a principle in American and English law, that if you're born in the country, you are a citizen. Now, you mentioned the point about jurisdiction. There is that little bit in there where it says subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That in the debate, if you go back and read the debate that the senators had at the time, they were very explicit that that was to do with foreign ministers and foreign ambassadors, diplomats living in embassies. Their kids shouldn't be citizens. Obviously, they're here on their own. The Argentine embassy in DC is Argentine soil. So we accept all that.
Absolutamente, amigo.
But when they were asked about Chinese immigrants, Senator Trumbull, who was, I think, the chair of the Judiciary Committee back in the 1860s during this debate, he said at the time, Chinese immigrants' children, they're citizens. In fact, 1898, as you well know, we get Wong Kim Ark, Supreme Court case, Wong Kim Ark versus the United States. And the Supreme Court says, yes, even the child of undocumented Chinese immigrants is an American citizen.